welcome back to Getting Chatty with Buxani Counseling Care. We are all licensed mental health counselors. My name is Katie Fennell.
I'm Dr. Buxani.
My name is Melissa Cruz.
And again, welcome back. We were on a brief hiatus for the summer, but we are back talking about youth mental health.
Let's start.
Sure.
I know all of us have been doing this research, but we know just from our caseload, right, that youth are struggling more and more. And what the CDC actually found, they did a study last year in 2021, and they found a third of high school students experienced poor mental health, like 37%. 44% reported feeling sad and hopeless in the past year. So they're talking about post-pandemic, so during COVID, and we've seen that, right? We've seen in our own clients that there's really been I think every time we get a request, for every one adult, we probably have 3 or 4 teens that are requesting help. So you girls with your clients, tell me what y'all are seeing.
Really a lot of just anxiety and sadness that, I think I'm seeing it a lot more too within like social groups. And I think a lot of it is resulting from the pandemic, where students and teens were really separated from each other for such a long time and not having a lot of opportunities to really use those social skills. So going back into these environments where they're just, especially with school starting right now, they're all being thrown back into this environment and just sort of expected to, fall back in line in what they were doing before. But it's just so hard for kids and for people to sort of let go of what happened and make that shift, so we're seeing more of these issues popping up, and they result in poor grades, risk-taking behavior, sexual promiscuity, drug use, violence. So it's really important that we address it.
That same study, I just wanted to add, sorry Melissa, but I just wanted to add that same study because there are factors I think that we have honed down on, right? But the same study found that the number of students that actually reported being emotionally abused at home during the pandemic was very high. It was over 50% of the students actually reported that. So there was stuff in addition to this, like that social isolation. There was stuff going on at home which I feel like students were better able maybe to deal with it because they were going out of the house. That was just exasperated because now they're home all the time and they're experiencing the verbal put downs, just the guilt from the parent. Just a lot of factors.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So touching on what I've seen in some of my clients, here and previously, when the pandemic first started, right, was on a good day, change is hard. So when it's change in the context of a global pandemic, of violence in the schools, of poor mental health at home, of family not having enough resources, right? Really these larger systemic issues. I think it's important to keep that in mind and not really, and really recognize all the factors that go into it, right? It's not just one child or one school or one, it's really a systemic issue at this point because it's so, really, as far as a pandemic, even global, but then within our communities, within our neighborhoods. And I think what you mentioned about, stress at home, right? Parents or families that are under financial stress because of the pandemic, under emotional stress, under, just normal things. And everyone's stuck at home. Some families don't really have the space to spread out, right?
Absolutely.
We're all kind of stuck in the same couple of rooms, and that can get really, really easy to get on everybody's nerves and
absolutely
not have the space that you need to de-stress.
Even when you have the space, I think it's driving people crazy. So not having the space absolutely
makes it even harder.
And I've always looked at youth mental health like as a triangle, right? Or child mental health as that the 3 parts that need to work together. So it's the school, us as community, the community at large, and of course us as therapists being part of that community, and then the parents, the home, and if any one piece of that triangle is not working, it's going to affect the child or the teen. Should we get into some tips, because we were thinking, obviously we've talked about the tips for parents, and we've talked about tips for teachers. Should we get into some of what they can do if they find youth in the school or at home struggling with mental health?
Yeah, I think that, on the first level, which I tell every single client that I come across, is you have to take care of yourself first. If you're not, taking care of yourself, it's going to be really challenging to take care of or reach out or have the capacity of being that person to advocate for students or for children. So the first, the basics, eat well enough, balance, sleep enough, but not too much, right?
Get your exercise.
Get some exercise, drink enough water, right? These are the basic things that we need to survive. And so if you're feeling off, first of all, acknowledging that we're in a very, it's a systemic problem, right? So it's not just you. And then just meeting your basic needs. Once you're in a place that you feel like, you're feeling a bit better, and you are coming across, maybe as a teacher, you're seeing students that are struggling, or a school counselor, or parents that are seeing their student struggling, my first suggestion is always to find out what resources are out there and connect with them, whether it's a program, an agency, a support group. I'm really big on support groups for parents, especially, but just knowing the resources in the community and having good connections with them, because then it's not, you're not scrambling trying to find resources for this child. You know where to go, you know where to send them, and you can kind of give some of that confidence to the family or the child that might be struggling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel also with getting the kids more involved in the school and community, right? So the more involved they are, they feel good about themselves, because it's always action that's kind of going to enhance your self-esteem, right? So obviously the more connected they feel in their school communities and communities outside of the school, it's beneficial for their mental health. But what Katie, what are you telling parents? Because I know you have what, 30% of your caseload teens, and I know you have a share of them that you're with the parents all the time.
Yeah, and I think along the lines of what Melissa was saying too, for teachers, parents also need to be taking care of themselves as well. I'm when it comes to parents, I'm really thinking about them being the models for their kids, and really modeling and demonstrating how important it is to take care of yourself, and having conversations with their kids about their mental health, not just letting some of that withdrawal or isolation type behavior, or maybe some of the irritability that they're noticing, or anger outbursts, not just letting it slide, asking them, sitting them down, what's going on, how are you feeling? Well, let's talk about this. Will allow teens, kids, young people to realize it's okay. It's okay for me to sit down and have a conversation like this with someone, especially my parents, and really talk things out. I think that's one of the key factors in addressing the youth mental health.
Absolutely.
With the parents, when you see something going on, your kid well, right? They came from you.
Say something.
Absolutely. Say something to them.
Yes.
Bring it out of them. And yes, they may resist you, but let them know that you're not going to let it go. You're not trying to nag them, but you care about them and love them to a point that I know something's wrong and I want to know how I can help you.
And I think asking for help if you feel like you're stuck.
Absolutely. And then even as a parent, asking for help, right? Reaching out to your child's school counselor or a teacher, or, if they are currently in therapy, mentioning that to their therapist, and, trying to get some help in pulling some of that emotionality out of them.
And I love how you said role model, because absolutely, I feel if we as parents, are taking care of ourselves, then yes, our kids are seeing that. And also, if we are expressing our emotions in a healthy manner, and we then build that environment of being non-judgmental, right? So when I go home, and if I've had a day that I've seen 7 clients, and I need those 30 minutes of quiet time, to be able to tell your child that, you know what, I need this time for myself, and being able to ask for that, and knowing that it's okay, because we're human. We are going to have those emotions. So I think destigmatizing emotions is so essential in households, that we all need to practice doing that. And particularly, as a parent, I think we need to be mindful of that, because our children are picking up on that.
Yeah.
They're sponges.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always ask my parents, how can you expect your child to healthily express their emotions if you're having trouble doing that, right? So I think even, and I know we've talked about the cultural piece in different segments that we've done, but how in different cultures, right? I'm Cuban American, and so growing up, right, like emotions and expressing yourself and therapy and mental health weren't things that were addressed. So just as a family, becoming more open and accepting of that.
Absolutely. And to second, I don't know of too many mental health therapists who are from India, and really one of the reasons is it wasn't accepted. Even when I graduated, going back, it wasn't accepted. So yes, but I think that bringing that change, and we being those change agents, where we are now open enough to expressing our emotions in front of our children, so that they feel more comfortable. They know they're not going to be judged, and they can come and talk to us as parents, as community partners, because we do need to do what we can to help with the youth that are clearly struggling.
Something that you were saying earlier too, about like when you go home after a long day, and you tell your family, you tell your children, I need this right now, and then I can attend to you, and then I can give you my attention. That just speaks to communicating needs and the things that we want and need for ourselves, and modeling that behavior, right?
Absolutely.
Like telling your child, like, mom needs this, and then I can, then we can do this, then we can work on homework together, or we can watch that show, or play a game, whatever it is.
And I think even, right, one of these tips that from UNICEF that I was kind of reading about for teachers was setting those healthy boundaries, right? Knowing that you can't do it all, you don't need to do it all. It's totally okay to not do it all. And especially when, maybe you're in a school that doesn't have that funding or that resources. I think, Katie, you were sharing with me that there's a, teacher shortage.
Yes, there is.
Giving yourself that grace and that kindness to say, okay, there's a lot going on and I'm doing my best, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot that is out of the control of parents, students, teachers, all around that, I know we were talking about it is a bigger problem within the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Great.
Well, this was a great chat.
Yes.
And I just want to thank our viewers for watching. Again, we're Buxani Counseling Care, getting chatty. And, Katie, Dr. Buxani, and myself, Melissa, we invite you to reach out, first to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you like what you see. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions or any topics that you would like us to cover. And just know that our offices are accepting new clients, and we can see any clients virtually in the state of Florida, and of course in person locally here in Pinecrest. So again, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.